60 Minutes Overtime.
What surprised me the most, without a doubt, on this trip is that Greg Carr did it. It's astounding. They had a catastrophic cyclone. They had the pandemic. And for several years, there was another civil war in this region. Despite all of those things, Greg Carr has done each and everything he told us he was going to do. The Gorongosa National Park is in Mozambique, just below the equator, all the way on the east side of Africa. It is a beautiful, wild land, but it is an area that had a generation of civil war. And during that civil war, most of the animals in this part of the country were wiped out. It was almost completely denuded. And Greg Carr came along and decided that he could change all of that. Carr is an American IT entrepreneur, but sort of an entrepreneur of a previous generation. He made hundreds of millions of dollars doing that and decided that he wanted to try to do some good in the world. We first came to Gorongosa in 2008 because we heard of Greg Carr's vision. We wanted to meet this man and to see what the challenges were. And in those days, 14 years ago, he was just beginning to bring some animals in. Well, now 14 years later, we just had to come back to see if any of it had worked out, and the transformation is astounding. Today, you can't drive 100 yards without running into all kinds of spectacular African fauna and flora. When we were here in 2008, Greg Carr's vision wasn't just for the wildlife.
So the idea is take the beauty of the park and use that to do human development. Attract the tourists who will spend the money to create the jobs and lift everybody out of poverty. For an entrepreneur, it's kind of a compelling opportunity to, 1 + 1 = 10.
Today, 14 years later, he is essentially hiring people from Mozambique to fill hundreds and hundreds of jobs, especially on the management level. So he is sending young people to the United States to go to college. One of them that we met was a young woman named Gabrielle Curtiz. She grew up in this area and is now enrolled at Boise State University in Idaho, where she's getting her degree in management, and her intention is to come back here and help manage Gorongosa. How has Gorongosa Park raised the prosperity of the people here?
Gorongosa Park raised the prosperity of people here by giving them opportunity, especially I would say about women empowerment. In Mount Gorongosa specifically, we have 800 people working on coffee harvesting and planting native species, and half of them are women. That gives prosperity, that gives voice to the women to express their opinion, to be listening. So we can not just talk, but we need someone to listen to us. So it's very important. So people listen to women. Yes.
Gives women power.
Yes, give women's power. Who runs the world? Women. Yes.
Look, you're a young girl growing up near Gorongosa Park. I just want you to have every possible choice. I mean, you go to college, do this, do that. Just the point is opportunities, right? Gabrielle's an example of that, and there's 10,000 more young girls around here that are an example of that, and boys. She's going to come back here. She's going to be one of the great leaders of this park. She's a role model now for others. Yeah, I like elephants, but I love people.
One of the most important things for Greg Carr is to make this self-sustaining, an actual business model, so that all of these things can add up to a well-balanced balance sheet, if you will. One of the things he's counting on is tourism, and so he's beginning to experiment with a number of very small footprint lodges around the park to see if he can get tourists to come in here, and that would create an enormous amount of income for the park. Another very interesting area that he hopes will make some money, maybe a lot of money, is the selling of carbon credits. In other words, planting trees and creating carbon credits that companies that pollute can buy in order to offset the pollution that they expose the world to.
I think we all know that there's too much carbon dioxide going up into the air, and it's heating the planet. And it's going to hammer Africa. I mean, Africa cannot afford any more droughts or for that many more cyclones. So, when you grow a tree, you're pulling carbon dioxide out of the air. And we have companies offering us a lot of money for carbon credits. So they will pay us to grow a tree. It's beautiful. Now, all that money is going to go right to these local communities.
So the money comes right back into the community and comes right back into these families, especially the jobs that are created by these things. Greg Carr is proving to the world that rebuilding an ecosystem can create a financial situation that might be self-sustaining. We're probably going to have to come back in another 14 years to see if that comes true as well.